Hello, my dear 1000 PS TV viewers. You can't imagine how surprised I was when the invitation to the presentation of the new Honda XL750 Transalp landed in our editorial office. It's not even 2 years old yet. Well, the new model isn't entirely new anyway. It's a clever, solid, and for many, I believe, very important update. Honda responded. For me, it was time to find out whether this update is truly good, and most importantly, whether it's worth getting the new one instead of sticking with the previous version. Stay tuned. Yes, it's a matter of belief. Is it necessary to go for the new one, or can you stick with the old one? So, for those of you out there who don't yet own a Transalp 750, yes, obviously if you're buying a motorbike, this one's great. But is upgrading necessary? Is it worth it? Well, Honda executed the update of the 2025 XL750 Transalp quite smartly. Let's take a quick look at the front, and I'll switch on the headlights right away. Bam! There it is. The new front of the Transalp 750. Honda says it's styled after the Africa Twin. Well, of course, they want to evoke a bit of its big sister's image, which clearly has a strong reputation. Personally, I think you'd need a lot of imagination to really see an Africa Twin here. However, the headlight, or rather the two headlights, do, I must say, look more aggressive and better compared to the previous Transalp 750. So, for me, it's absolutely fine that this headlight doesn't really remind me much of the Africa Twin. Independence. Hey, this model doesn't need to hide or try to mimic its big sister. The Transalp 750 now simply has a new front, and that's what should make it recognizable. But what the update was really about, and I have to give Honda credit here, is the suspension. For many, the suspension was simply too soft, especially the rear shock. Not just off-road, but even on the road. Now, I generally get along well with most suspension setups as they are. Honestly, there isn't much I can adjust on this suspension. That means I have to rely on the Japanese engineers to give me a suspension that works the way I like. I can adjust the rear preload, but I can't fine-tune the compression or rebound damping, neither at the rear nor the front. And this rear shock, for an above-average number of customers and testers, was just too soft. And that's where Honda has now responded. What's interesting is that at the front, they made the fork just a little softer in terms of preload, rebound, and compression damping. And I was like, why did you make the front softer? Well, they said it's to harmonize with the rear, because at the rear, the rebound and compression damping were made stiffer. I really have to rely on the other testers I was riding with, asking them, can you feel it? Is it really stiffer? Is it actually noticeable that it handles better? The roads here in Portugal, where the test took place, are, let's say, almost too good for me to notice a drastic difference. We also had different bikes with various configurations, still all XL750 Transalps, of course, but for example, I had one with full luggage, top case and panniers. I even put my stuff in the top case, so there was already some extra weight on the bike. I have to say, just the fact that Honda is bringing an update with a revised rear shock stiffness is, in itself, very commendable, and it worked really well. We also got to do a bit of off-road riding to see how the bike handles off-road. I rode mine with the luggage attached, and honestly, for me, it felt too heavy. It's something I'd need to test again to see if the changes have a positive effect off-road. But for me, it was fine, and once again, the Transalp 750 proved itself to be such a universally usable bike. For me, especially on the road, it's an absolute blast because it's really sporty to ride. And then there's, of course, the engine, that 755 cubic centimeter parallel twin with its solid 92 horsepower at 9,500 revolutions per minute, a pretty high rev range, and 75 Newton meters of torque at over 7,000 revolutions per minute. That's relatively late in the rev range. If you're someone like me who enjoys the thumping character of a V-twin, well, this parallel twin with its 270-degree crankshaft design imitates that character pretty well. If you're into that kind of thing, like the Africa Twin with its 1100cc engine, then you know what I mean. However, that heavy bottom-end torque push, the grunt from down low, isn't as pronounced on the Transalp 750. Personally, I really appreciate this engine in the Hornet. Revving it out is a lot of fun, so for me it doesn't necessarily have that super torquey character, but within the 750cc class, it does its job well. What really stands out though is the electronics. They're honestly top-notch and offer everything you'd want. You get 4 riding modes: Sport, Standard, Rain and Gravel, which is intended for dirt roads and works really well. Plus, there are 2 user modes that you can configure however you like. Setting them up was a breeze because, well, the menu system is super intuitive. The bike also comes with a new 5-inch color TFT display that's very easy to read. Now, the menu navigation is controlled via a 4-way joystick on the left side, and it's even backlit so that you can see it well at night. Through this, setting up the menu and configuring the 2 user modes is super simple. You can adjust the power in 4 levels, the engine brake in 3 levels, and the traction control in 5 levels. The ABS can also be adjusted in 2 levels, and in the user mode, you can even turn it off entirely, just like the traction control. So this is definitely a bike that, compared to other competitor models that might perform better off-road, is maybe a bit harder to judge. But now, with the new suspension setup, especially in the rear, I think it deserves a fair shot and to be taken more seriously. Because so far, we've said, yeah, the Transalp is a really cool touring motorcycle, and now with a slightly tweaked design, the wind protection is still great. That hasn't changed. But as I said, now it's also gaining some off-road credibility, while on the road it remains excellent to ride and very sporty in particular. And the front brake, absolutely great. Despite the 21-inch front wheel 90/90-21, it's unbelievable how sporty this motorcycle, or motorcycles in this class, can be ridden these days. So, as I said, for all beginners out there, yes, this is definitely the better Transalp 750. The price? 11,790 euros in Austria. So, is it worth upgrading? Well, yes and no. I think you could bring the previous Transalp to a really good level with an aftermarket rear shock or a different suspension. The new one just comes with it already installed. So I'd say if you're buying new, Honda would need to significantly lower the price on the 2023 or even 2024 models. Otherwise, I would definitely recommend the new one. But for those who already own the 2023 or 2024 Transalp 750, it's hard to say. To be honest, and sorry, Honda, it's not absolutely necessary. If the current rear shock bothers you a lot because it doesn't perform at the same level as the one in the new XL750 Transalp, then sure, go ahead and upgrade. But as I said, the design has also been cleverly modernized, so you can say, hey look, I have the 2025 model, which is instantly recognizable thanks to that beautiful LED headlight. Otherwise, it's an absolutely awesome touring motorcycle that can be ridden incredibly sportily, especially if you throw in the quick shifter. Plus, there are various accessory packages, or you can buy individual options like a taller windscreen, a wider windscreen, or a comfort seat. The seat height of 850 millimeters is already at a level where I'd say it works for most people. Even smaller riders, male or female, can hop on a Transalp 750 without any issues. That's exactly how it should be. The Transalp has always been a middle-class bike designed to please as many riders as possible, and it's done that well over the years. I think they aim to achieve the same thing with the new one. Although, with the suspension, they may have leaned a bit too much toward the old Transalp. I remember the older model. It was like a sofa on wheels, almost like a carriage. When you came to a stop, the front would dive down completely and the whole bike would rock back and forth. Okay, it's not that extreme here, but it's definitely much better on this one. So here's a quick statement on the new XL750 Transalp. I hope this has helped you decide whether it's necessary to go for the new one. Thanks for listening and watching, and please subscribe to our 1000 PS YouTube channel. That way, you'll get all the videos we produce delivered straight to your device, wherever you are, as soon as they're uploaded. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Take care and see you next time.